Train hard, recover faster, and bring on the gains with Recovery Systems. And your host, Coach Mike on the mic.
Could be at the end. And we're off. Okay. Well, welcome back everyone to a series which is called For the Love of Exercise. Lately we've been spending more time with the Spartan community, and it's my pleasure today to have Ilona Errington and Jay Douglas with us.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, both of you are actually customers of ours at Recovery Systems, which is great to have you here as a customer as well. But today we want to talk mostly about your Spartan journey.
Yep.
Can I start off by asking, how long have you been in Singapore?
This is our fourth year.
Yes. Just over 3 years.
Yeah.
Right, and years, what drew you to Spartan? How many years have you been doing Spartan?
The first Spartan race we did was actually in the UK. It was in 2015 at Windsor. And yes. I signed up for that because I just finished my teaching degree, and I'd spent an entire year and a half sitting behind a desk planning lessons and eating rubbish food, and I was starting to grow outwards rather than upwards. So I was at that sort of time in my life. So as a teenager, I was an Army cadet. And I used to be a part of an event as an Army cadet called the March and Shoot. And the March and Shoot was a 5K running event in battle order, and then was a military assault course followed by a shooting competition.
That sounds like Spartan.
It was exactly that. So it was a natural progression. So we represented Northeast sector with my regiment, and then went on to do the Ironmongers Trophy. And I just remember absolutely loving it. So then the shooting event would minus the time off of the run and the obstacles combined.
Right.
And I was basically at that point where gym scared me. I didn't want to go out, and I wasn't big enough to sort of throw heavy weights around with the big guys, and running bored me to tears because it was just monotonous and I hated it and didn't like it. And I just remembered absolutely loving that event and being a really big part of it, and I enjoyed the kind of rough and tumble boy stuff of climbing over walls, crawling through tunnels. So I kind of put in obstacle course racing and things like that, and found it through Google and some targeted ads and some people in my mum's community at the time that were doing it. So then I went ahead and signed up, and I was like, this is a little bit scary, so I'm definitely going to have to train for it, but it's close to something that I used to love as well. And at that point, we were really opposite in our exercise regime, right?
Yes. So I was doing a lot of dancing and a lot of cheerleading, and I remember him saying, I found this really awesome thing to do, it's called a Spartan race, and he pulled up the website and he showed me all this stuff, and I went, oh my god, there's no way you're getting me to do that. For me, exercise was in a dance studio, with air conditioning and makeup and your hair done, and I would do that, and then I was doing a lot of cheerleading, so I'd be out on the pitch, and again very made up, lots of hugs and high kicks. So I was like, okay, fine, I will sign up for it, but only if I can raise money for charity.
Yes.
And a lot of people paid lots of money to try and see me finish my first Spartan sprint, because no one actually believed that I would be able to do it.
Because it actually became really important that we did it together at that point, because we were living, we weren't married yet, we weren't engaged, and we were living separately, which meant a lot of time at the weekends we actually had to travel to see each other. And then when we were doing wildly different exercise regimes, like you were in the dance studio, I was out running or picking heavy stuff up in the garden and practicing spear throws, it actually meant that we were spending less and less time together. So actually we needed to do it together to actually see each other just socially. So that became a part of it. So we kind of combined, and we created loads of the obstacles. So we found old tires, and we turned some garden gnomes. We looped some rope around them. Old garden ornaments, dragged them around. My uncle Kenny lives next door but one to us back in the UK, and he's fantastic. He's got a whole workshop of tools and everything. So he built us a spear. So I was sort of throwing that up and down the garden.
Okay, so the picture in my mind is garden gnomes from various parts of the neighbourhood being dragged around, holes in fences from spears.
It was exactly that,
And, but what a wonderful thing. And isn't that a great thing about Spartan, in that most places in Singapore, kids' playgrounds or whatever, you've got a training ground.
Yeah, and actually we found that being a great thing when we moved to Singapore, and we kept racing, was one, because it's a global brand, we did it and we wanted to do some more of it and could, so we picked it up there. But actually, Singapore is such a playground because it's got monkey bars everywhere, and it's got those fitness corners and all that sort of stuff, whereas preparation is everything, and we prepared for our very first Spartan race by watching a lot of YouTube videos. Yeah. So the first ever time, we'd never climbed a rope before, and we had never done monkey bars before, and all that kind of stuff. So we watched a whole bunch of like tutorial YouTube videos, and one of the moments that really worked for us, but also undid us, is the rope climb. We got to our first ever rope. We'd watched loads of videos on it. Never actually had hands on a rope before, and both of us were like, okay, scoop and stomp, scoop and stomp, scoop and stomp. So we got to the top of it. And we'd watched all of that, and we got to the top, we both rung the bell, we looked at each other and we were like, yeah! How do we get down? And we had there'd never been anything in the video to explain how we got down. Yeah. So one of our first ever matching things that we ever had in our relationship was a matching shin scar.
Because both of us slid the whole way down and got rope down like up our legs.
So there's a photo somewhere of both of us with a matching scar on our right shin.
I think that's probably a scar that you'll only have once.
Yes, and it absolutely is.
Yeah. That's a big lesson learned. So you exchanged makeup for mud and grass.
I did indeed.
Which is mostly what people are wearing at the end of a Spartan race.
Yep.
And possibly the old scratch from barbed wire on the way through.
Oh yeah, I've got a few on here which are pretty permanent now from various various races.
And so one thing in our interactions that I've been impressed about you guys is that what we've noticed, and having been involved in endurance sports for a long time, cycling and triathlon, and having competed and coached for a fair bit of time, you guys are actually embracing the Lydiard formula for endurance training. And let's face it, Spartan is an endurance sport. In fact, anything over 400 metres really is an endurance sport. You guys are doing sprints, supers, beasts, I would imagine.
Yep.
And so tell us, and you're being coached by Coached.
I am, yes.
And we've known Ben for a long time, and his training principles are very much aligned with ours, and they both fundamentally, I would say, come from the Lydiard school, which summarised is 87% of your training should be strength endurance, and probably towards the top end of your endurance zone as you get fitter. 9% at threshold, 4% at VO2 max. There's the formula, and how you kind of flesh that out is will relate to how much success you have, we believe. So tell us how you've adopted those principles into Spartan racing.
Oh, it's definitely been a journey. I think for me in particular, I found that. I think it was only 2 years ago that I decided, I might be okay at this Spartan racing thing, let's try it out competitively. And I went like hell for leather, like let's go as hard as I can with everything, let's focus on the obstacles, let's pick up some heavy stuff, let's go out and run every day, and learn the hard way about burnout and overtraining injuries.
Yes. Sorry to hear.
Yeah, well, but it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
And so from there, I actually then went out and started doing a bit of learning and a bit of research about the better way to structure your training, and that's when I started to learn about the 80-20 rule. So now a lot more of my training is actually based on being low heart rate, easy, steady, and actually really structuring the week around a lot of that kind of easy mileage.
Yes.
So for me, whether that's running, on the bicycle, but also looking at easier strength activities. So we picked up a lot of climbing as well recently, and actually just being able to go and take that at a really nice chilled pace, like spend a bit of time on the wall, a bit of time recovering, and that's actually where I've seen the most improvements.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because that's fleshed out by a lot of success from a lot of athletes across a lot of different sports as well. We wish the Malay wedding downstairs all the best, and you may hear the drums in the background, and it's a wonderful day for the couple that are getting married downstairs. So in case you're wondering what the drums are, that's what that's about. Now, you two have been married for how long?
3 years.
3 years.
Just over.
So it was just before we moved to Singapore.
Now, we were joking, because you not so long ago, back in June, discovered Recovery Systems.
Yeah.
So we jokingly talked about what a date night looks like now. Can you describe that visually for our audience today?
We've got a lovely L-shaped sofa, which we've discovered is the perfect kind of accessory for using Recovery Systems, because what it actually means is we can put the box in the middle, plug into that, and then Ilona can sit across this way, and then I can sit here, and we can just about get some food and snacks in the middle, and then catch up on some of the live streams of the US races and things like that. To sit there, and then halfway through, get up and
switch. So like one of us will be in the legs, and the other one will be in like the little kind of lower back. And
we were marvelling at some of the F1 pit stops the other day that were taking less than 2 seconds. We've got a lot to learn from that because they're still getting caught up in some of the hoses. But
you guys are swapping. So you've got the leg cuff and the hip and glute cuff.
Yes,
and then you're rotating. So you're treating and speeding up your recovery for the major body parts.
We've actually just spent a little bit of time apart as well. So being a high school teacher, I have quite a long summer holiday, which Ilona doesn't have a more normal job. So I went out to Canada and I did some racing out there, and I saw some of my friends and family. So the recovery systems actually replaced me as a cuddle buddy in bed. Ilona actually moved the recovery systems into the bedroom at that point and was using them before she went to sleep at night.
Well, what I've found is that they're also perfect for when I need to take long calls in the evening. So if I've like gone out and done a hard session, maybe on my way home, I then get into bed, I'll like finish off some emails like in the system, and it makes me feel a little bit sleepy, so then I can shut down and just be like, time to sleep.
there you go. So you've noticed a difference in your recovery?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, especially because I'm still fairly new to running, only having been a runner for the last couple of years, I just kind of thought that it was a runner thing, that you'd wake up in the morning and all your legs would be quite stiff and you'd kind of hobble to the bathroom and maybe have to like stretch out a little bit until I started using the recovery systems and realised that I could just get up in the morning.
What was interesting about that as well is actually you are much more than I am. You are much better than me at foam rolling and your mobility in the evenings and stuff. But it is funny, it used to be funny, it doesn't happen as much anymore, but watch you kind of hobble out of bed in the morning and kind of before you sort of like, loosen up a little bit. It was kind of like walking on frozen legs to the,
that's great.
to the kitchen.
There's all those soft tissue benefits. And you also mentioned it makes you feel sleepy, so that's your parasympathetic response. Your body's switching on the healing switch, and we have a lot of folks that report back to us that they sleep better, and that they often wake up the next morning wearing cuffs.
Wearing them,
which is good. So I wanted to move on by moving back to the 3rd of August.
Okay, sure.
And the last 3 obstacles of the Super.
Okay,
So we watched, as we watched the race, and also the subsequent videos that we saw Vivian come in, and we spoke to Vivian about this when we interviewed her as well. We saw Vivian come into the rope hall, did I call it by the
hoist?
The hoist, with maybe 30 or 40 second gap. And she, by her own admission, was really struggling with it, and she had a nice buffer, nice lead. She'd really played to her strengths. Then we saw you come in and just machine that thing up. It was something to behold. So, being relatively new, it was Gladys and I our first Spartan race with recovery systems. Being at the race, we really enjoyed it. But it was a bit of a revelation of the technique of hauling that thing up there. I saw legs, elbows, the whole lot being used.
I think that was one of the biggest things that we learned quite early on, actually. With my background being in dance, I think it's a very different type of strength that you have to use. And so I learned very quickly that if I wanted to be lifting a lot of heavy things, I had to be as efficient as possible with my movement. So it wasn't necessarily about really building a lot of strength to just be able to like hand over hand pull something, because I knew that I was going to be several years behind my competition in terms of that sort of strength, especially for my upper body, because dance is predominantly in your legs. And so I had to learn very quickly the technique to literally use full body power and momentum to pull yourself through things.
And I think we saw an example of that actually in our very, very first race back in 2015. Was actually coming into that obstacle, having watched the YouTube videos. One of the guys had said, like, it's physics, it's a counterlever. Most of those bags weigh somewhere in the region of, I think it's about 40 to 50 kg for the guys and 30 something for the girls. Don't quote me on that. You can check it out online. But most people, so I weigh about 80 kg. So if I use my full body weight, that's actually going to help counterlever it. So actually came in, and I remember this guy, and he had his shirt off, and he had six packs, and massive chest, huge biceps, and he was like, but he was just trying to use small muscles. Yeah. He was trying to use those biceps and things like that. Yeah. Whereas basically, and I was heavier then, I was actually closer to 90 kg in that very first race. I basically walked up, jumped up, grabbed the rope, and just fell over, right? So, and then the bag went about halfway up, and then you kind of use the counterweight to so it is that kind of full body element. Yeah. And what is interesting, and this is actually what keeps me interested in Spartan racing and things like that, in most other races, although it's not always a given, if you have almost a minute lead on someone, they're not going to catch you. Like in a lot of races, if you've got a minute ahead, that's the country mile, and you're not going to close that gap. Yeah. In Spartan race, we were actually saying in a commentary one of the other days, someone was about 2.5 minutes behind the leader, and they were like, "Oh, and he's close." And most people are like, 2 minutes behind and you're close? Yeah. But what you got to remember is if you fail an obstacle, burpees can take about 2.5 minutes. Or if you freeze out on a Herc hoist or something like that, that is that sort of 2 minutes. So it actually keeps the race engaged and stressful or entertaining, which depending on which part of the race you're from, that actually small marginal gains, small choices throughout a race can actually cost you a lot of time.
Yeah, and that was the big thing with me and Viv on the 3rd of August, is that actually pretty much the whole second half of the race, we were back and forth. Yes. I mean, she's an incredible runner. She's really, really fast, especially on the flats. So there were sections where we would be back and forth on the running. We'd hit an obstacle, one of us would overtake. Then, we'd hit the next obstacle. I think some of the strength obstacles is where I've got a little bit more, maybe a couple of years ahead of her in that. So I would pick up a sandbag and overtake her, and then we'd get to a nice open stretch of flat running, and she would just whiz past me at an amazing speed. So I think it's an interesting sport in that it really isn't over till it's over, and every single gain that you can eke out in terms of your running technique and your obstacle proficiency and speed is really important.
So I summarise the look on your face as one of patience, and I think patience and pace judgment, which actually you need in other multi-sports like triathlon, for example. You may be giving up a lead on the swim, but you're going to eke it out over the bike and the run. And knowing where your strengths are and not panicking, I think, is a very big part. It's a lesson. I think it's a real lesson. Some triathletes never learn that lesson, by the way. They'll go too hard on the bike, then blow up on the run. And I think there's elements of know thyself, and let's face it, because we're all different body shapes, and we will gravitate towards some things as a much easier activity than others. And it's a case of just being patient and in the moment and not getting ahead of yourself. So I sum up the look on your face as you came into the obstacle behind Vivian as patience. And you weren't getting ahead of yourself, you were very much in the moment as I read it. Fair comment?
Yeah, I kind of knew that final gauntlet played to a lot of my strengths. I mean, I had kind of mentally walked the course quite a few times before we physically got into it.
Okay, another aspect of a good athlete is that mental rehearsal, and that can't be underestimated as well. So you guys looked at the race map ahead 2 days out.
It's interesting actually, because that's been a bit of a culture shift, or at least a regional personality trait of some of the Asian races. Back in the UK, the first time you'd see the map is at the race site. They would never publish it online before, and it used to be that kind of Spartan thing of keeping you on your toes and keeping you guessing.
Show up and be surprised.
In the course handbook or in the rules, there is the sort of 50 obstacles that they have in their arsenal, and you'd know it'd be some combination of that, and you'd be pretty prepared to see the big hitters like the monkey bars and things like that.
But I think now it's the move towards Spartan actually become a proper sport. Is that you do get to see the published maps.
So they're releasing those early, and you get that chance to study them, and there are real moments where we talk strategy at length, right? We look at that, and we sort of look at things like, okay, we might give out some time there, but we can catch up there, or we sort of panic obstacles, okay, that might be burpees there. And actually sometimes that can change depending what it is before or after those obstacles. So sometimes if there's a very heavy carry, like one of the armors or jerry cans or something like that, if there's like a in the hand carry right before a monkey bar or a multi-rig, it can actually change your strategy completely, because you know that you're going into that hanging obstacle with a burnt grip. Whereas if you rotate that order, you're like bam bam straight through. Like, so it can actually change that up.
And the technique that you're then using to approach some of the obstacles as well, like knowing that there was a lot of strength at the end of the Bukit Timah race, I purposefully tried to use more conservative techniques on a lot of the hanging obstacles, so that I had the grip left in my arms.
Oh well, that's such a great characteristic. I wish I could cut and paste that, or copy and paste it across to a lot of athletes that I know. So that's a wonderful thing. So you're off to Tahoe in September.
I am,
Quick bit about that before we go on to a rapid fire of Q&A.
So what Tahoe's famous for as a course, aside from the fact that it is in the old Olympic Village at Squaw Valley, which is just super cool anyway, as an experience to go there and kind of be a part of that. So you know that you've got two big hills that you're probably going to have to go up and down, and at the top of one of them is a very cold lake. So it's the end of September time, so not quite in the ski season, but obviously, you know, you're heading in that direction.
Heading into that winter time.
Yeah, exactly. So
water temperature?
Water temperature can be anywhere between 0 and 10 degrees.
Celsius.
Historically, Celsius. So last year, I think it was a warm year, around about the midpoint of that. And you're going to go and you're going to be in the water for a good 3-4 minutes, doing like an out and back swim. And that normally happens either near the beginning or near the end of the race, and then after that, they will run you back downhill and into a lot of like upper body and hanging obstacles where you've got, you know, your cold hands and your legs fingers aren't quite ready to move, and
because then you've got cold hands, which affects your, you know, the actual ability to grip, and they're wet on top of that. So in Asia we get a lot of wet hands anyway, just because of the humidity of the atmosphere or some of the swims and lakes that we have. But adding into that the cold is a whole other ball game.
Getting cold as well, which especially mostly living and training out here is completely different to what you experience.
It is, isn't it? It is. So that sounds like a massive curve ball for a championship race. So let's just move on finally to a rapid fire question. Okay, favourite foods?
Pizza.
Peanut butter.
All right, no, there's no right or wrong answer here. I'm really unhappy that neither of you said chips or
fish and chips or anything. I don't know. Pizza for me. One of my beasts that I ran ages ago, I was thinking of the 21 kilometres, and I was just like, you can cut a pizza into 20 slices, and like every one of these kilometres is just an extra slice I get to have at the end. Like it was what kept me going.
There you go. Mental skills, another great mental skills, visualisation of what the reward looks like. Okay. What can you cook in 15 minutes or less?
Frittata.
Anything with eggs.
Lovely.
Like an egg frittata is one of our go-to. So we do a lot of meal prep. Egg frittatas are like right up there. Cut a bunch of ingredients up, throw them in, egg mix on top, throw it in the oven, forget about it.
And just like, you know, big fat handful of spinach, a little bit of avocado oil.
Loads of protein, loads of veg, easy.
What's the exercise that you hate to do that will make the most difference if you get good at it?
Running.
Squats.
Favourite gym or hangout place to train together?
Oh, to train together.
Empire.
Yes, Empire Fit Club in Bali is just, I could go and just hang out there all the time.
All right. And what about locally here in Singapore?
Locally, Gym Rendezvous is one for us. The great thing about that is it's a big open warehouse, so it allows us to do some of our heat climatisation. So trying to acclimatise for the cold for you, but actually here is just trying to get that hot weather stuff, especially having come from the UK and now living on the equator and being a redhead and ginger. You're a little bit closer because you've got some African, you've got some African heritage, but being a full-on Celt and living on the equator.
No, but that being said, for me, Pure Fitness in the Young City is kind of my go-to. My go-to gym. They have some obstacles there as well as a big turf area, so you have to kind of run around, play on the obstacles, do a lot of the functional movements.
Rendezvous for me, Pure for you. Absolutely.
Well, isn't it interesting that just about we did our wet market shopping today, and we walked past a lady doing burpees in a playground area.
Spartans are everywhere.
And to which we yelled out, "Spartan, what is your profession?"
Did she give you some maroos?
Yeah.
Yes.
So pretty much anywhere can be that place, right?
Yeah.
So what movie title would best describe you?
Oh my God.
While you're thinking about that,
okay.
who would you play stunt double for in a movie?
I was going to say that one's hard for you. I'm going to go first. I would do Valerie from the Thor movie,
right?
Because she's super cool and badass, and also mixed race, and I feel like that just does need to play a little bit.
Valkyrie for that representation.
Yeah, if we were going for no race applicable, then Black Widow.
Yeah,
that's just cool, really cool.
My background actually is stunt work,
which
people might not know. So before I became a drama teacher, my background actually was martial arts and fighting for film. So I have done some stunt work. So I've done some fights for a well-known band, and I'm in a couple of music videos being bottled, and I've done a couple of German TV series
bringing the Gallagher brothers.
You can find it; they're out there.
All right.
But
basically Google lots of different very white, very ginger.
I think we've got a fair idea where that might be.
Yeah.
Now you're ginger enough to be from where we're from, Dunedin.
Right. Yep.
In fact, it's a great thing, in fact, we're a very. We talked to Vivian about this because she studied there for 5 years.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And the trail running there is awesome.
It's incredible.
You've got some really good outdoor training areas, and hats off to the Scots. To this day, folks in Dunedin still speak with a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Hey, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's pretty staunch. And so finally, goals for 2020. You've just won the series.
I have just won
Congrats.
the Southeast Asia series, thank you.
Jay just had his best race.
I did, yeah. It's my fastest ever super, an hour and 40, and 0 obstacle failures, so a completely burpee-free race.
Yeah. And look, hats off to you both. We spoke about this earlier, and I got a lovely reaction. Let's hope we can replicate it. Because it's, as a guy who's had his best race, whose wife is, the elite winner, I must say you did a wonderful job supporting and being her supporter at the end of that race, because she had a lot of media and awards and so on to do, rightly so. But well done for the teamwork.
No, it's good. We support each other all the way through, but it's in very different ways at very different times. But we've got a lot of stuff that complements the way that we think and act and all that sort of stuff. So
I'm very lucky that he will, after having run a race himself, do all of the holding of bags and taking
run around and just fill you up with electrolytes and water and buy you food. To
help me remember to eat and all those
That's great.
things.
That's great teamwork. Well done. You've got a big race coming up. We wish you all the best for that.
Thank you.
But Scooby-Dooing forward to 2020, goals?
I think for me it'll be checking out some new race series.
Where do you think?
At the moment, so the OCR World Championships is actually taking place this year, 30 minutes up the road from where he used to live. In the UK, but it's due to move next year.
I see.
And
we don't know where to yet.
We don't know where to. That's a very different type of course. So the 15k usually is very obstacle dense. You can have like 100 obstacles in what is quite a short course.
Whereas so Spartans, you're looking at 21 kilometres with a maximum of about 23, 25 obstacles. So it's a huge increase in obstacle.
So for me, it'd be being able to find the balance of competing in Spartan races where it is predominantly running, and being able to go further, faster, better, and hopefully this season wasn't just a fluke. And then
I don't think all that hard work and correct attitude, correct training structure, I don't think that's a fluke.
I hope not. But no, I think it'll be a case of being able to maybe consistently improve and continue to do well in the Spartan series, and then also maybe check out some other race series and see how I go there as well.
Well, we'll be following you, and we'll also be tagging the end of this video with your social media tags as well, so everyone else can follow you as well. It's been great getting to know you. It's been great having you as a part of what we do as well, and hopefully making a difference to your training and your gains. And we wish you all the best, and we will be at races as well, cheering you on from the sidelines. So
good to see you there.
Spartan friends.
So it's Coach Mike on the mic, over and out for now.